This video is brought to you by Incog. Stick around to hear more about the special offer they're providing to the entire upper echelon community. All right, today I want to talk about esports because esports is a radically overvalued commercial sector with negative returns and sketchy partnerships. To be clear, I enjoy video games, I support video games, and I certainly understand the appeal or demand rather for competitive gaming environments. But what we see right now today is the culmination of a multi-year hype-driven FOMO cycle, which is collapsing right in front of us for the Western market. Let's go back in time. Gaming used to be a hobby. Gaming used to be nerds with computers carting them across the state to LAN tournaments because the circle of peers who actually appreciated their hobby was relatively small. Flash forward, and gaming is now the target of venture capital investment or sovereign government wealth funds, even boasting multi-million-dollar salaries for its roster of competitive players. The industry's come a long way. That much is undeniable, really, but where does it go from here? If you looked at the industry, generally speaking, in 2022, you'd be floored. FaZe Clan had shaken up the public market with $1 billion valuation, trading via SPAC at over $18 per share. $1.3 billion of venture capital had been poured into the industry that fiscal year alone, with major brand partnerships and even dedicated new publisher networks like the Riot Esports REN, meant to rival platforms like Twitch. All signs pointed to esports rivaling traditional sports on a global stage with unparalleled growth and unprecedented levels of interest. I mean, hell, people were even starting to compare League of Legends with its World Series to the Super Bowl on the metric of unique viewership, which is huge, and the industry itself seemed to be kind of untouchable. However, flash forward again, and esports has become a cautionary tale about overhyped excess, corrupt partnerships, inflated metrics, and destruction of value. Speaking generally here, the industry certainly has value potential, but snapshotting the landscape in 2022 and comparing it to a summary just 2 years later shows a staggering level of decline that represents a more accurate reality of what esports truly is, rather than what big brands and advertisers tried to pretend it was. Now, to accurately understand this, we need to understand first where the money comes from. A platform called Newzoo does extensive analytics for esports and described the industry in 2022 as follows, quote, "Esports will generate nearly 1.38 billion in revenues globally by the end of 2022. China accounts for nearly a third of worldwide esports revenues. Revenues from brand partnerships are the foundation on which the esports market was built, so it's no surprise that the sponsorships continue to be esports' highest grossing revenue stream, generating 837.3 million in 2022 and accounting for nearly 60% of the entire market." End quote. That description is echoed elsewhere, but the critical points to understand are that China accounted for a dramatic portion of global esports revenue, as well as brand partnerships accounting for the lion's share of the entire market's cash flow. Well, ever since 2021, actually, China has been kind of playing ping pong with the video game industry, restricting, then unrestricting, then restricting it again. But these political maneuvers have very real industry-wide consequences, at one point sparking a near $80 billion meltdown. Sure, that's not the fault of esports as a concept directly. It's more so the dictatorial whims of an authoritarian nation state, but it plays a role in the story of how a market darling child could go so wrong so fast, despite everyone hyping it up as the next golden goose of our digital lives. Before going further, today's video is brought to you by Incog. Unrelated to their services, as I develop relationships here on the channel, it's important for me to find brands that actually respect what I do, which absolutely applies to Incog. Independent from any advertising, I want to thank them for that. It's rare on YouTube, sadly, and it's very much appreciated. Incog is all about online privacy and data protection. That's actually been one of my hobbies lately, owing to how important protecting your data is in a modern digital world, increasingly so. Every single day, your data is at risk of being sold by third-party brokers or accessed without your knowledge in data breaches. Some people don't care, but they should care. The number of identity theft victims has gone up over 41% since 2021. And for anyone who wants to prevent that kind of thing, Incog can help. Your personal information is absolutely everywhere now, and not just in the archives of companies you know about or signed up for on purpose, but other data firms as well, who then sell it all across the internet. For everyday users, it's a nearly impossible task to take any action at all because there are hundreds of these data brokers, and it's a lengthy process to contact them, fight objections, and get something removed. However, Incog does all of this for you quickly and easily. The process is incredibly simple. Sign up for the website, give them specific legal permission to work on your behalf, and let them know what kind of information they'll be having removed. After that, sit back and just watch them work. Aggregating this kind of service lets them do what would otherwise be an all-consuming and nearly impossible task for individuals, which is why so many people have so much information online that they never even know about. Using the link down below in the description and code Echelon at checkout, you'll get 60% off an annual subscription to Incogni. I could go into a lot more depth on this. The services they offer and the value they provide is quite large, considering, but for the sake of time, I have to keep it trimmed. Again, link down below and promo code Echelon for 60% off your subscription. Big thank you to Incogni for sponsoring the channel. Let's do that comparison now. In 2022, everything was green, but just 2 years later, well, let's have a look. FaZe Clan, once valued at well over $1 billion, is down roughly 99% from its peak, trading at 20 cents. And Riot's potential esports network, REN, that's just flat out canceled amid layoffs. Venture capital? Yeah, after excess COVID spending and government-spurred lockdowns both expired, venture capital shriveled up like a raisin, not even getting close, by the way, to its 2018 levels. As for brands, that might actually be the most compelling aspect here, because brand deals have begun to heavily favor the crypto industry, and we all know how that's going to go. Here's a few examples. Guild Esports got its largest ever deal from Bitstamp, which is a crypto exchange. Evil Geniuses, a prominent professional gaming organization, partnered up with ThunderPick, whatever that is, a crypto betting platform. And even TSM, once the poster child of North American esports, was set to change its name to TSM FTX after a $210 million deal. The worlds of crypto and esports were becoming increasingly intertwined by the day, it seemed, where some 15% of all the money even flowing into esports in the first place was from shady crypto organizations, but the problems didn't stop there. 1xBet, a platform with widespread criminal charges that's banned in like over a dozen countries as a result, became an official partner of WePlay, a fact that they quickly sought to conceal. And the Saudi Arabian Sovereign Wealth Fund became the primary engine behind effectively the entire esports industry, which is controversial to say the very least. Well, I'm sure everyone can guess how that's going, but in case you don't want to guess, it's going a little something like this. The TSM FTX deal collapsed because FTX was a massive fraud, surprise, surprise. Elsewhere in the industry, Misfits, another prominent organization, pivoted away from professional gaming entirely. Quake Esports got rug pulled. Super Smash Bros. Continues to be basically wholesale rejected by Nintendo with no official support. Riot Games shut down their Wild Rift Pro scene completely beyond Asia, and LCS viewership hit a 5-year low. There's more, but that's a snapshot of industry sentiment with a few separate examples. Why, you might ask? Because esports is gold-plated bullshit. Yeah, competitive gaming is fun, and certainly over time, some organizations will find a way to become profitable, probably. But right now, tremendous amounts of money are being funneled into an area where the audience doesn't even really buy shit. Propped up by excessive capital in a completely obvious entertainment bubble, because of COVID, by the way, esports was then catalyzed further by crypto, of all things, meaning an industry that has never even been profitable was raking in billions and billions of dollars and is now accurately being revalued by organic market forces. Esports, collectively, is undergoing a completely necessary correction at the moment, which it earned by being a bloated and fiscally irresponsible industry that accepted money from every single possible angle it could get its grubby little hands on while offering very little back in terms of advertising value. To be clear, I'm focusing on the Western version of esports here, but esports in South Korea, among some other locations, is an entirely different creature. In the West, esports tried to go the franchise route, like traditional sports, where teams pay for a slot, then they travel around the country, playing home and away games tied to a city. Overwatch tried this, Call of Duty tried this, etc. But a $20 million slot just isn't worth the money when the landscape of merchandise sales and advertising, as well as global distribution, is so brutally against them. In response, most of the big name organizations are just pivoting over to sign on general influencers instead of pro players. The world of esports is losing its emphasis on competitive gameplay, kind of, because the competitive aspect lacks profit potential. It just does. Paying some random skilled teenager $1 million of sponsor money per year, which you'll never make back from them, by the way, ever, and then posting negative returns every single year afterwards from them as a result can only go on for so long. Instead, orgs have decided to shift emphasis and bring on popular online personalities, pivoting away from the sort of here's our roster that competes in tournaments type format. And the result is that they're able to bring someone into the fold that already has their own audience, generates profit from a variety of angles, and meshes with the structure of the org in a way where they actually produce cash flow rather than consistently drain it on all fronts, which is obviously a much more beneficial method of operation. As it stands, they're all basically bankrupt, the major esports teams, that is. and they're experiencing layoffs, restructuring, and other hardship as a result of their wildly overzealous spending habits in an industry that has yet to prove that it can make any money at all through a Western audience. Multiple aspects of the business model just don't work. And the whole thing got propped up by crypto of all things because, again, no one had any clue what was going on, and a bunch of teenagers basically lit all their cash on fire. Now Saudi Arabia is earmarking tens of billions in order to become a global gaming hub by 2030. So, yeah, esports is still here. Yes, eventually some of the players involved will find a way to become profitable, and of course, on an industry wide level, there is potential for it to grow. But the rise and fall of Western esports is a story of naive greed, impulsive spending, suspect partnerships, and well deserved correction, as it all comes toppling down when the music stops and everyone tries to grab a chair at the same time. Seeing what esports is now, but remembering what it was, say, 10 or 15 years ago when the hobby was uncorrupted, I'm not sad at all. Let it burn. Something will rise up from the ashes at some point, but the industry that we see right now, the norms that we see right in front of us, they're shit. They deserve to go bankrupt. They should have to rebuild. And what comes after will necessarily be different because what we see there right now just doesn't work. That's it. If you want to support the channel, check out the links down below. We have a brand new official merchandise line for the channel. Pre-orders are open right now. Again, link is down there. Locals and Patreon for monthly subscriptions. That's one of the main funding mechanisms for the entire channel. And the video sponsor, of course, Incogni, protect your data. But I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.